All right, welcome everybody to Youngstown Studio. Our guest today is going to be at the Absolute Intense Wrestling Show this Saturday, June 7th at Penguin City Brewing, just down the street here in Youngstown. Please welcome to the show, Zoey Skye. Zoey, how are you?
Great. How are you?
Great. Hey, thank you so much for joining us. So this weekend on Saturday, you're taking on Katie Arquette, correct?
That is correct. I am.
So give us a little bit of a preview of your match Saturday and kind of your history with Katie. I assume, have you guys wrestled before?
Sure. Her and I have probably wrestled dozens and dozens of times over the last few years. So we're pretty well acquainted. We haven't wrestled each other for AIW, and we haven't wrestled each other here in Youngstown. So getting the chance to do that, here in my hometown with somebody who I feel I have good in-ring chemistry with is fun and exciting.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So take me back to the beginning in kind of your start in pro wrestling. I mean, and even before that, when did you know that you wanted to be a pro wrestler?
I always knew I wanted to be an athlete of some sort. I was always athletic in school. I did any and every sport I possibly could. But so when I was younger, I loved hockey. I wanted to be a hockey player, but I was always above average in sports and whatever I did, but I never excelled to a point where I could be, I couldn't go somewhere and play hockey on a competitive level to where I could, make a living from it. I found wrestling and I fell in love, and I didn't even know that I could make it a career. But as I got older, 16, 17, 18, and then found training and started training and realized that it was very much a possibility. I knew it was I had to do it, and that's all I wanted to do.
Was there like a particular wrestler? Or was there a particular like sort of era of wrestling that kind of got you into it or sort of kickstarted you a little bit?
Sure. So the Attitude Era, the late '90s was always, early 2000s is the best time for wrestling in my opinion. But of course, that's what I grew up watching. Shawn Michaels is my all-time favorite performer. Like I said, it was one of those things where independent wrestling, local wrestling, I had no idea about. All I knew was WWF, WWE at the time. Now it was like I never had any idea that I could pursue more than what I saw on TV. When I was in, I don't know, maybe 11th grade or so, my mom came and was like, "Hey, there's this wrestling promotion that's on local TV. It's Saturday night, late at night. You should check it out." And I was, well, of course, I would love wrestling. I'm going to check it out. Sorry, there's my cat. I found it, I watched it, and it was a Cleveland promotion, Cleveland All Pro Wrestling, with JT Lightning ran the company. And I was like, I don't know what this is. I have no idea, but I need to know more. I looked it up online, did some research. At the time, I was in the military. I enlisted when I was 17 and still in high school. My unit drills were, I didn't know at the time, but I realized were only 20 minutes away from where Cleveland, CAPW ran. And so after a weekend drill, I left from my unit still in uniform to an event to catch the main event and stay after the show to wait and meet JT, introduce myself and say, "Hey, I want to be a professional wrestler." And thankfully, he was busy. He gave me his card. I called him a couple of days later, and, in late 2007, I started training.
Kind of speaking to your military background, did you ever think of doing a military angle, or have you ever done one?
No.
Or would that be kind of taboo to do?
I was never against it, but I never felt like it was a forefront of who I was. That and people, when people see me, you don't realize like how small of a person I am. The last thing I need is big baggy military gear to wear around to just look smaller than I do. But no, it was definitely something I've thought about here and there. But I want to be comfortable, so I never played a gimmick like that.
I gotcha. What was your first match like?
Oh boy, it was not good. It was not good. I was only, I think, maybe 4 months into training, and I train a couple of days a week and stuff. But a guy came in and they were like, "Hey, we have a show this weekend. We talked to JT, and he said it'd be okay if you work the show. Do you want to wrestle me?" And it was a guy, and I was like, "Well, I don't know. I guess." And he was like, "Well, you got permission from your trainer. If you want to, you'll wrestle me. I have the great ideas, this and that." And in all reality, he was a very nice guy. He very much was a very charactery, fun person. So he made sure that I looked as good as I could look in the ring, my first match. it was definitely not good. I do believe it's around there somewhere. I think I have watched it back. I've at least seen pictures. I didn't even have wrestling gear. I was wearing, like probably like old cross country, like running shorts and a tank top and knee pads and shoes. I didn't have I didn't have anything. I didn't have wrestling boots. But I just know that for a long time, and even still now, a lot of people make sure they take care of me in the ring.
Mhm. What kept you coming back?
Oh, I never wanted to be away.
Yeah.
I love what I do. I love training. I love being on the road. I love traveling. And then getting paid to travel. And even though it's a lot of wear and tear on our bodies, I love what I do. The fan
Mhm.
interaction's great. Meeting people like this is just, it's a fun, great experience.
Mhm. So AIW has kind of established itself as one of the longest running and one of the more reputable indie promotions kind of across the country. But what has your experience been like in the times that you've worked with AIW, and what do you think kind of maybe separates them from some of the other indies out there?
They just, everybody there has a great mind concept of just wanting to better themselves, each other, and just put on a good product for people to enjoy.
Mhm.
They're very much in a positive way. They're very in your face. They come in with the ball rolling, and there's no stopping them. They always are striving to be better, do better. And that's from, in ring wrestling wise, making sure that they have good, talented wrestlers on the card, but then also, the stage, the setup, the lights, the cameras, like they always make sure that, they are keeping their product out and predominant for people to understand and learn and see.
Mhm.
I've wrestled on and off for them pretty much since I started, probably more so in like, I don't know, 2009 or so, maybe 2008. I'm sure if I go back and look, I'd find out an exact date. But I did a lot of their, girl night out shows. They're all women's shows.
Mhm.
I've done some other events, not just the women's events, but, but they've always just, been professional. They've been cool. They try to travel around and get their name out to other local places, but they are a Cleveland company. They're coming down here in Youngstown to expand, but they did a show here at Penguin City a few months ago, and it did great. Like people came to see, and it just
Mhm.
shows that good wrestling people will come and watch.
Mhm. What would you say are some of the most challenging aspects of being an independent wrestler?
I mean, there's a bunch of them. Being on the road a lot is good and bad. I love being on the road, but well, you miss family, you miss friends, you miss just having. You don't even get an average life. I'll come home and people are like, "Oh yeah, what'd you do this weekend?" I'm like, "I was gone on the road," and like, "Oh, I got to go on this date, or I got to go do this, or I got to go do that," and it's like, "Oh wow, is that what like a real life feels like?" And well, that's cool, but I mean, you know,
Mhm.
sometimes you're on the road, so you're not eating great, you're not always getting to get to the gym, you're not always getting a chance to even sleep in your own bed or a bed.
Mhm.
Sometimes you're sleeping in the car.
Mhm.
um you know there's times where you go places and you're promised X amount of money, and you get gypped from promoters. They dip out without paying you, they short you. Nothing is ever a guarantee. For as much
Mhm.
as the conversation is there, I'm an independent contractor. I get paid, I do things on my own term. But if I go drive 7 hours one way to a show, and I'm told I'm going to get my gas and a hotel and my pay, and I get there and come to find out there's not even an event, I was lied to. Now I'm completely out of all this time, money, and everything. So there's
Mhm.
always things to be aware of and look out for. But thankfully, I've never had any major issues. You know, Thankfully, a lot of people in wrestling just, want to just do this and have fun and, take care of each other. So I think for as many issues as there can be, overall, I've gotten lucky and haven't had very many more than, like being shorted a pay or something, but, never been taken advantage of in any way, in anything. So it's been pretty
Mhm.
good.
What opponent or opponents would you say you have the best chemistry with, or that you've had the best chemistry with over the years?
Quite a few. Katie Arquette is definitely one of them. Her and I just, anytime we get in the ring, we mesh well. We understand each other. We both want to be on a high level of performers that we push each other to be better. I've always been that way with Jessica Havoc. Um, but back when I first started, Sassy Steph was very new, but her and I pushed each other because we were constantly wrestling each other every weekend because we were very few, we were two of the very few girls around, so we were constantly wrestling. So we got, very good chemistry. I'm sure there's others, but those are like the ones that I'm constantly being booked on shows with or being around. So those girls are definitely great girls to be in the ring with.
So is it a challenge? I mean, because I've seen you wrestle live before, and you're 5 feet tall, right? You're 5 feet tall, like 100 pounds. So and I remember seeing you, and then immediately seeing you go in the ring, and it was like, wow. I mean, it's super impressive. Is that kind of a common misconception that you get, maybe from people that haven't seen you before, like, oh, how this girl's so small, how is this going to play out? But like I said, in the matches that I've seen you, it's always been great. Like, it's always been high flying, and it's been believable, and it's been very cool. But yeah, so what would you say is sort of the biggest misconception maybe about your size?
First of all, I appreciate that. Thank you. You're absolutely right. What you said is 100% spot on all the time. What I get, I literally went to a show in Canada back in winter. There was tons of snow on the ground. It was terrible. It was freezing. I'm bundled up in hoodies and coats, and I didn't have my hair and makeup done. My hood was up, walking in carrying a bag, and I start saying hi to people, and I reach over to shake a hand, and it's the promoter, and he goes, "Oh, you're Zoey? You look so much bigger in all your pictures." I'm like, "Well, thank you. It's I can't help it. I'm 5 foot, give or take 105 pounds. It's real. I'm small. I can't help it." But I tried to make up for that with my appearance in the ring and through pictures and videos. I mean, I can't hide it. I am as short as I am. But I present myself as something bigger. I go to the gym and work out so that I look the part. I just enjoy what I do. But I think that probably is, I really don't, it's not like an issue or anything, but it is probably the one big misconception. It's just, oh boy, you are very small, especially, it's fun to always get, like, I just wrestled Jessica Havoc a few months ago, and we got that face-off picture where, we're standing face to face as much as possible. And here she is towering over top of me. Size-wise, I look like a child, but, I still go in there and put on a show and do my best to put on a performance that people will enjoy, and it is, believable, so I'm not going in there going to pick her up and throw her over my head. If I legit I can, then okay, let's do it. But I'm not going to go in there and do things that I can't actually do with someone. It's not believable. It's not, it's not real. I can't actually do it. So why am I going to go in the ring and do it just for a show,
Do you have to approach matches a bit differently? Like, so, I mean, your first match, you wrestled a man, right? So, and you've done that. I've seen that you've shared the ring with guys before and stuff as well too. Do you have to approach those matches any differently?
Yes and no. Wrestling is wrestling. I got so used. So when I started training, it was all guys. I didn't have another female in my class. So, I went to JT, so it was Johnny Gargano, Gregory Iron, Matt Justice, Ben Boone. I was training with the guys. I learned from the guys. And I think that helped me a lot in the sense of, they were respectful and nice, but they didn't take it easy. They weren't, they weren't bullies or mean, but they didn't just baby me and just kind of help me through. They made sure that I learned. They made sure that I could do everything. These guys are 6 foot tall, and they're making sure I can do drop kicks to their chins and upper chest. Like, they're making sure that I can do these things, and they're taking care of me. So when it came time to start wrestling, having my first match and tons of other matches with guys, it was always just about, again, doing the things that I was confident in myself to do, that I look strong. And of course, there's times where the guys are like, "Hey, you should do this because it would look cool." I'm like, well, yeah, but I don't do that. I'm too small for that. That doesn't. I wouldn't look believable. Like, we're not gonna put too much out there to where things just look silly, But at the same time, like, I know with guys, I'm confident that if I'm going to do a dive, they're going to catch me. If I'm going to do something, I'm not going to get, dropped on my head, and because they were trained, they know. And a lot of times it's the same with girls, but you never know. If we meet somebody and we've worked for, we've never wrestled each other before, and, they go to give me a slam and don't realize how small I am. And literally I've had people dump me on my head. And so, it's one of those things where with people, I have to go in the same mindset, male or female, to protect myself, but know I can communicate with somebody and understand how much I can be protected from them, or how much I have to say, kind of take a step back and protect myself. I can just kind of judge people and how well I'm going to be taken care of in and out of the ring with them just on our conversation.
How would you say has women's wrestling evolved since your start of it? I mean, has it come a long way? I mean, because you've been doing this 13, 14 years now, right?
18 years.
18 years. Okay.
Yeah,
My
very
apologies.
long
But yeah. So how would you say women's wrestling has evolved in that time from when you started to now?
No, it definitely has a lot. And while it was happening, it was still even hard to realize that it was. When I started, women's wrestling was good. It was fun. It was already progressive from what it was back in the 2000s, even late 90s. I started training in 2007 in the area. I think we only had maybe 5 girls, local-ish, within a few hour radius of each other. So we were always either wrestling each other or we would never see each other. They would, some of the girls would just be always out somewhere else. While the few of us just kind of dabble between the same little group of us. And then just like now, 18 years later, I can't even tell you how many girls are within that same radius. I mean, to say 10 is probably an understatement. Between here in Youngstown, I kind of consider Pittsburgh and Cleveland local, in terms of wrestling, and even Akron, Erie. I don't think there's any females out of Erie, but I could be wrong. But in that little region where we only had maybe 5 girls before, I think, like I said, 10 is probably, it's probably closer to 15 to 20 girls, just women's wrestling. Like, more women want to be involved, more women want to wrestle, and more are just good at it. They're athletes. They're, or even if they weren't athletes, they can adapt, and they're good at just performing and just whatever. Like, and then of course you watch it on TV and you see how much these girls have, invested in themselves. They go to the gym, they work out in the ring constantly just to make sure that when they're on TV or on these pay-per-views and et cetera, whatever they're on, they are top-notch talent. So it's evolved in depth. It's going to continue to, but I'm so happy where women's wrestling is today.
And I know, I mean, obviously it's the business is super competitive as far as people kind of trying to advance and advance their careers and kind of move up the ladder. How I came across a match actually with you and Mariah May from a few years ago, and she just debuted on NXT. I think it was last night, I believe.
Yes.
How, I mean, when one of your peers kind of gets the call up or moves up to that next level, I mean, how do you, I mean, obviously you're probably happy for that person, but at the same time, you're probably like, all right, when's my chance kind of coming? I mean, is it challenging when you wrestle somebody or when somebody else that you're kind of on par with maybe gets picked and you don't, and kind of how have you sort of been able to kind of combat that over the years?
Sure. I love seeing people succeed. I love seeing good people do good things. That match with Mariah was one of her first matches in the States. She was so nervous. I mean, I was nervous because I hadn't met her, I hadn't worked with her, but I knew just in our conversation, I knew she was newer, but she had so much potential. She had a mindset of she wanted to do this. She came here to the States for it. She was going to do things. She just had to get to the right places. And with my experience at the time, again, that was pandemic-ish, so within the last 5 years, I just knew, even with, saying, hey, I've been wrestling 12, 13, 14 years, whatever it was longer than her, was, hey, you have potential. And I'm always one where I want to help people, but I want to wait and see how they are in the ring. I don't want to overstep my boundaries. I don't want to say things that maybe aren't there. And I don't want to lie or tell people things that aren't maybe true. And through like our conversation of the match and doing things and just talking backstage, I was like, man, like, she's going to do something. I don't know what it is, but then, here we are years later, she signs with AEW, and I was like, oh shit, like, I know who she is. Like, I wrestled her. People probably haven't even seen that match, but like I have, and I went to AEW a couple of times to do extra work, and I saw her, as well as, so like, literally 90% of the girls that are at AEW and NXT, WWE right now, I know them. I've wrestled them. I've been on shows with them. I'm not jealous. I'm not mad one bit. I'm so glad to see them there. There's so many girls that are signed right now that who would have thought that anybody would have had that much of an opportunity, that much of a chance? Obviously, sure, would I want that for me? Absolutely. Yes, there are a lot of smaller girls who are assigned, but I just think that my size doesn't do me any favors. I don't have enough of a uniqueness to where I stand out for that TV presence. And that's on me. I just have to, but I love what I do. I love traveling. I get to make my own schedule. I can say yes. I can say no. I'm going to leave in a week and I'm going to go to Canada for 2 weeks and tour up there and then come home and just bounce around and do whatever I want. I can't do that if I'm signed somewhere. I can't, and obviously I'm signed somewhere. There's guaranteed money. There's guaranteed appearances. There's guaranteed this and that. But this I can do my own. I can take a weekend off and go, spend time with family or, work a job or do whatever the case may be, So by all means, like to get signed would be great. It of course is a goal still of mine. If it doesn't happen, I'm not mad at myself because I've enjoyed what I have. I've been to Japan. I've been to the UK. I'm touring Canada. I'm across the States constantly. I'm happy with what I do. But I just want to keep seeing my friends succeed. And I want to see, again, just good people doing good things. That's all that matters to me.
Yeah, I mean, I've interviewed several wrestlers and stuff too, and I mean, even recently, Matt Cardona is a guy that left the bigs, but he's doing so well everywhere. But there's more opportunities, like you said, to go to different places and different indies that are doing really, really, really well. So I think sometimes people think it's just so cut and dry, like, oh, you're not in WWE or AIW, you must be like. But there's a lot of opportunity out there, like you just said, and you've been all over the world, to showcase it. But Zoey, again, I really, really appreciate the time. To kind of wrap up here, you mentioned still having kind of goals for yourself. I mean, over the course of maybe do you have kind of sort of immediate goals the next year or two, and then maybe long-term goals, maybe like 5-10 years? I mean, can you see yourself kind of being a mentor or maybe teaching wrestling at some point? I mean, obviously that's probably a little ways off, but yeah, what are kind of your short and long-term goals?
Yeah, I'm always for trying to help anybody. I've been in a spot to be able to help do like a seminar and do like little things and help it, run like a single day at training or something. I don't see myself as a trainer. So long term, like I don't know what my long term goals are. I always would love to help mentor and pass along information and just talk and help people. So in a sense, like mentoring would be great. And like I said, I still kind of do it now. Short term, dude, I say this all the time, and I just want to have fun. I want to travel. I want to wrestle my friends. I want to see people succeed. Again, being signed would be great. But I love the chance to get to go do extra work. I love getting to just, be backstage in places and go, hey, maybe I can pick up and help out with, I want to learn more, I guess is where I'm at. It's like, I want to learn more backstage so I can be, more of a helping hand so that one day when wrestling isn't quite there, I can do something else that's still wrestling related, So short term, I kind of want to find a way to prepare for that long term, because again, we can't wrestle forever. So I'd love to, for as much as I want to keep wrestling and I want to keep doing what I'm doing, I want to have more of a helping hand. I don't know what would fit me the best. I need to be taught and learn in things confidently before I grasp them and run with them. But if I can help somebody in some way, help put a show together, run things, do camera work, do, whatever the case may be, doing something like that would definitely be something I would love to start working on now while I'm still wrestling.
When you are in the times when you are home, you're from Lordstown, correct?
I'm actually in Niles.
You're in Niles. Okay. So when you are able to be home for any kind of extended period of time, any like typical hangouts or any favorite restaurants, any kind of things, sort of in the Mahoning Valley that you like to go do or go see?
I go to Mill Creek Park a lot. I like going out and adventuring, walking trails and paths. Anywhere where there's a park and there's some trails to go wander, I like to go and just be outside. The weather is now perfect for it. I'm sure I'll be there this weekend, before the show or whatever, but I definitely just like to go. Eating wise, I'm not, too particular. If I can, I'd rather just sit at home and just cook at home and eat well and eat clean. But I definitely just be outside. Anything I can do outside is great.
Awesome. Well, again, everybody, see Zoey again this Saturday, Absolute Intense Wrestling. at Penguin City Brewing. Again, Zoey, thank you so very much for the time, and best of luck this weekend.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing you.